Through a General Motors recall involving more than 600,000 vehicles, GM is recalling four-wheel trucks and SUVs.
At 70 miles per hour, trust isn't optional. It's assumed. You assume the engine will keep running. You assume the steering wheel will respond. You assume the machine beneath you won't suddenly decide that today is the day it gives up. For nearly 1 million General Motors truck owners, that assumption turned out to be dangerously wrong. What's now being called GM's $888 million pickup scandal isn't just about engines that failed. It's about warnings that were ignored, fixes that felt insulting, and a corporate response that left families wondering whether profit mattered more than their safety. These weren't rare edge cases or abused work trucks at the end of their lifespan. Many of the failures happened in vehicles with low mileage, driven normally, maintained properly, and sold under the promise of durability and dependability. For decades, trucks like the Silverado and Sierra weren't just products, they were symbols. They represented reliability passed down through generations, vehicles trusted to carry families, haul livelihoods, and survive anything the road threw at them. That image collapsed the moment engines began seizing without warning, sometimes on highways, sometimes during routine drives, sometimes with children in the back seat. What makes this story different from a typical recall is not just the scale, though the scale is massive. It's the response. Instead of a full mechanical fix, owners were offered thicker oil and a plastic filler cap. Instead of transparency, there was silence. And while frustrated drivers waited for answers, GM announced an $888 million investment in new engine production, complete with photo ops and ribbon cuttings. That contrast between broken trucks and billion-dollar expansions is what turned a mechanical defect into a full-blown trust crisis. And once trust breaks at highway speed, it doesn't come back easily, because this wasn't just a failure of metal, it was a failure of responsibility, and it started long before the recall notices ever went out. Real quick, if you're into videos that cut through the noise and break things down clearly, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps more people find this, and if you're not subscribed yet, now's a good time. We've got more deep dives coming your way. Also, drop a comment and let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your take. Now onto the video. Recalls are supposed to reassure drivers. They're meant to signal that a problem has been identified, contained, and responsibly addressed. But when General Motors issued its recall, covering nearly 900,000 trucks and SUVs, many owners didn't feel protected. They felt exposed. The reason was simple. This wasn't a minor adjustment or software update. The recall acknowledged that engines could fail suddenly and without warning, potentially causing loss of power while driving at speed. That kind of admission changes how every mile feels. A vehicle you once trusted becomes a question mark. Every merge, every overtake, every long drive turns into a calculation of risk. What unsettled owners most was the randomness. These failures weren't tied to extreme use, poor maintenance, or old age. Reports showed engines seizing in vehicles with fewer than 30,000 miles. Some were barely broken in. There was no dashboard alert, no gradual decline, no clear warning sign. One moment the truck ran fine. The next, it locked up completely. For families who bought these trucks believing they were making a safe long-term investment, the recall read less like a precaution and more like a quiet admission that something had gone very wrong. It contradicted years of marketing that framed these vehicles as rugged, dependable machines built to last. Instead, the recall suggested that durability had been compromised at a fundamental level, and GM's public communication didn't help. There was no direct apology from top leadership, no clear explanation of how the defect made it into production, no reassurance that similar issues weren't hiding elsewhere. The company acknowledged the risk, but stopped short of taking visible responsibility for how it happened. That silence mattered, because when a recall involves potential engine seizure at highway speed, people want more than technical language. They want accountability. They want to know who knew what and when. And when those answers don't come, suspicion fills the gap. The recall may have been the official beginning of the scandal, but for many owners, it already felt like the end of something far more important: trust. And just as drivers began looking for reassurance, GM revealed what it believed was the solution. That's when frustration turned into outrage. When General Motors finally explained how it planned to address the defect, many owners expected the announcement to calm fears. Instead, it did the opposite. The official remedy was not a redesigned engine, a replacement of defective components, or an expanded buyback program. It was an oil change and a plastic filler cap. Under GM's instructions, dealers were told to drain the original oil, refill the engine with a thicker grade, install a new oil cap marked with updated specifications, and send the vehicle back on the road. That was the fix. No teardown, no internal inspection, no guarantee that damage hadn't already begun. For drivers who had paid tens of thousands of dollars for a truck marketed as rugged and dependable, the response felt dismissive. The core issue wasn't oil viscosity, it was that engines were suffering internal failures caused by manufacturing defects. Heavier oil might reduce friction temporarily, but it could not undo metal damage already occurring inside the engine block. What made the situation worse were reports that some engineers privately acknowledged the limitations of the fix. Once microscopic metal fragments circulate through an engine, they don't disappear. They continue to scar bearings, damage crankshafts, and weaken components over time. Thicker oil might slow that process, but it doesn't stop it. To many owners, the strategy looked less like a solution and more like a delay. If failures could be postponed until after warranty periods expired, repair costs would shift from the manufacturer to the customer. Whether intentional or not, the optics were damaging. A pennyworth cap and an oil swap felt wildly out of proportion to the risk involved. This wasn't just about engineering anymore. It became about respect. Drivers didn't feel heard. They felt managed. And as frustration spread, regulators began paying closer attention. Because when a fix inspires more complaints than confidence, it usually means the underlying problem hasn't been addressed at all. As anger mounted, the data began to surface, and it painted a troubling picture. By early 2025, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration had logged dozens of formal complaints describing sudden engine failures in GM trucks and SUVs. Some reports detailed near-miss collisions on highways. Others described vehicles losing power without warning while traveling at speed. What made regulators take notice wasn't just the number of complaints, but how quickly they accumulated. In January, the issue triggered a preliminary investigation. Within months, that investigation expanded dramatically, eventually covering close to 900,000 vehicles. That kind of escalation is rare, and usually signals that the evidence is consistent, credible, and difficult to dismiss. Patterns began to emerge. Failures clustered around specific engine types, production years, and manufacturing facilities. Many of the affected vehicles had low mileage, contradicting any narrative of normal wear and tear. These weren't aging trucks pushed beyond their limits. They were relatively new vehicles, still within the period when reliability should be at its peak. The contrast between GM's public messaging and the government's findings became impossible to ignore. Advertising campaigns continued to emphasize toughness and dependability, while federal databases quietly documented breakdowns that told a very different story. For owners researching their own concerns, the data confirmed what they had suspected. They weren't alone, and they weren't imagining things. Yet even as the evidence mounted, GM remained restrained in its public response. There were no high-profile admissions of fault, no detailed breakdown of what went wrong in production, and no commitment to a comprehensive mechanical fix. Silence became part of the story. That silence only fueled speculation about how long the company had known about the issue. Because once regulators see consistent patterns across hundreds of thousands of vehicles, the question stops being what happened and becomes when did you know? And the answer, buried deep inside manufacturing records, would soon raise even more uncomfortable questions. The heart of the scandal wasn't a design flaw drivers could spot or prevent. It was something far more insidious: microscopic manufacturing defects embedded deep inside the engine itself. At the center of the investigation were crankshafts and connecting rods produced at GM's St. Catharines plant in Ontario. These components are among the most critical parts of any engine, responsible for converting combustion into motion. Precision is everything. Even the smallest deviation can have catastrophic consequences. According to investigators and technical analyses, some of these components were produced with machining imperfections so small they were invisible to the naked eye. But in an engine environment, those tiny flaws mattered. They disrupted the thin film of oil that normally separates moving metal surfaces. Once that protective barrier failed, metal began grinding against metal. The damage didn't happen all at once. Bearings scored. Heat built rapidly. Tiny fragments of metal broke loose and circulated through the oil system, accelerating wear with every mile. Eventually, engines seized completely, often without warning. What made the failures especially dangerous was their unpredictability. There was no reliable symptom drivers could monitor. No gradual loss of power. No consistent noise that signaled imminent failure. A truck could operate normally one day and lock up the next, even under routine driving conditions. For owners, that randomness destroyed confidence. Dependability isn't just about how long a vehicle lasts. It's about knowing what to expect. In this case, GM trucks became rolling question marks. The most frustrating part for long-time customers was knowing GM was capable of better. The company produces high-performance engines with extreme precision when it chooses to, but in this case, cost pressures and manufacturing shortcuts appeared to outweigh caution. The defect may have been microscopic, but its impact was massive, and once engines began failing, the consequences spread far beyond the factory floor into dealerships, courtrooms, and eventually, the company's bottom line. When engines began failing in large numbers, the anger didn't land at GM headquarters first. It landed at local dealerships. For thousands of owners, the dealership was the only visible face of the company, and it quickly became a pressure cooker. Service departments were suddenly flooded with trucks that wouldn't start, engines that had seized, and customers demanding answers. Mechanics who were used to routine maintenance found themselves staring at catastrophic engine failures with no clear repair path. Sales floors turned tense as stop-sale orders froze inventory, leaving rows of unsellable Silverados and Sierras sitting idle on lots. Dealers were placed in an impossible position. They had to enforce GM's official fix, the oil change and plastic cap, even when customers openly questioned its effectiveness. Service writers repeated corporate explanations they didn't fully believe, while owners accused them of knowingly selling defective vehicles. In many cases, these were the same dealers who had served their communities for decades, relying on long-standing trust now eroding in real time. The financial strain was immediate. Loaner fleets ran dry, service bays backed up for weeks, refund demands mounted, and with inventory frozen, cash flow slowed. For small-town dealerships, the damage wasn't just reputational, it was existential. What made matters worse was the perception that GM had distanced itself from the chaos. Executives weren't the ones facing furious customers across a counter. Dealers were. They absorbed the anger, the shouting matches and the accusations, all while waiting for clearer guidance that never seemed to arrive. As dealership morale collapsed, frustration began spilling outward. Owners realized polite complaints weren't moving the needle, and when corporate explanations stalled, a different kind of pressure campaign began to form, one that GM couldn't deflect with talking points. If GM wasn't going to listen to drivers, drivers decided to make GM listen to judges. The recall didn't just trigger service appointments, it triggered lawsuits. Law firms with experience battling automakers quickly mobilized. Class action filings multiplied, alleging negligence, concealment of known defects and reckless disregard for safety. For plaintiffs, the lawsuits weren't just about reimbursement. They were about forcing transparency in a system that had gone silent. What made the legal threat especially dangerous for GM was discovery. Lawsuits don't rely on press releases. They rely on documents, emails, internal reports, engineering memos, communications that may have warned of machining problems long before engines started failing on highways. Attorneys pointed to troubling signals, reports that manufacturing defects had been flagged internally, only to be addressed with cost-saving measures rather than redesigns. If proven, that pattern could shift the narrative from oversight to intentional delay. In legal terms, the difference is enormous. History made the stakes even higher. GM had already paid hundreds of millions in past engine-related lawsuits. Now, with nearly 1 million vehicles implicated and documented safety risks involved, exposure climbed into the billions. Investors noticed. Analysts revised forecasts. The company's risk profile changed almost overnight. Courtrooms also stripped away marketing. There were no commercials, no slogans, no brand storytelling, just sworn testimony and data. Every deposition carried the risk of revealing what executives knew and when they knew it. As lawsuits advanced, GM attempted to project stability, but the timing of its next move only poured gasoline on the fire. While owners waited for meaningful repairs and lawyers prepared their cases, GM unveiled a headline-grabbing announcement: an $888 million investment in engine production at its Tonawanda, New York plant. On paper, the move was framed as forward-looking, supporting jobs, innovation, and next-generation V8 engines. There were ribbon cuttings, smiling executives, carefully staged photos. But for truck owners watching from the sidelines, the announcement felt like a slap in the face. Their engines were failing, their vehicles sat in service bays or driveways. And instead of directing resources toward comprehensive fixes or buybacks, GM was celebrating expansion. The contrast was impossible to ignore. To critics, the message was clear: money was available, just not for the people already affected. If even a fraction of that $888 million had been allocated toward redesigning defective components or replacing engines outright, many owners believed the outrage might have cooled. Instead, they were handed thicker oil and told to wait. The optics mattered. This wasn't just a financial decision, it was symbolic. New plants and future promises were being prioritized over broken commitments. The company appeared more focused on protecting long-term production capacity than repairing present-day trust. For long-time GM customers, the move confirmed a growing suspicion. This wasn't an isolated failure. It was part of a larger pattern where cost control and growth consistently outranked accountability. And as that realization set in, more people began looking backward, connecting this scandal to earlier ones, and recognizing something deeply unsettling. For many long-time GM owners, the pickup engine scandal didn't feel shocking. It felt familiar. Once the initial anger settled, a quieter realization took hold. This wasn't the first time warning signs had been ignored, minimized, or managed instead of fixed. Just a few years earlier, GM faced a major class action lawsuit over excessive oil consumption in certain trucks and SUVs. Owners reported engines burning through oil at alarming rates, sometimes requiring top-ups every 1,000 miles. Internal documents later revealed that engineers had raised concerns about faulty piston rings early on. Instead of a redesign, management opted for a cheaper mitigation strategy. The result was predictable. Engines failed prematurely, often just after warranties expired. Courts ultimately sided with consumers, and damages climbed into the hundreds of millions. Before that, there was the ignition switch crisis, another case where a small, seemingly minor component caused outsized harm. Once again, internal warnings surfaced after the fact. Once again, accountability arrived late, pushed forward by regulators and lawsuits rather than proactive leadership. When owners looked at the current engine failures through that lens, the pattern was hard to dismiss. The sequence repeated itself. Early warnings, quiet internal handling, public minimization, and eventual exposure under pressure. Each time, trust eroded a little more. It wasn't just about defective engines. It was about a corporate culture that appeared to treat safety risks as problems to be managed financially rather than eliminated decisively. Cost savings up front, consequences later. That realization traveled quickly. Competitors noticed it. Regulators noticed it. And perhaps most importantly, customers noticed it. Once people stop seeing a failure as an accident and start seeing it as a habit, forgiveness becomes much harder. And that shift from disappointment to disillusionment set the stage for the most dangerous consequence GM now faces, a long-term collapse of loyalty that no recall can repair. In the end, the GM pickup scandal isn't really about crankshafts, oil viscosity, or plastic caps. It's about expectations and what happens when they're broken repeatedly. People don't buy trucks like these casually. They buy them believing they're choosing safety for their families, reliability for their work, and durability for the long haul. When an engine fails unexpectedly, it's frightening. When the response feels dismissive, it becomes infuriating. And when that pattern repeats across years and models, it turns into something much bigger than a recall. This story shows how quickly trust can evaporate in the modern era. Data spreads faster than marketing. Owner experiences travel farther than commercials. A single breakdown on a highway can undo decades of brand loyalty. And once that trust is gone, no amount of expansion announcements or polished messaging can bring it back overnight. For GM, the challenge now isn't just fixing engines. It's proving that lessons have been learned, that warnings will be taken seriously, that safety won't be treated as a cost center, because consumers are no longer content with quiet settlements and technical explanations. They want transparency, accountability, and action that matches the scale of the problem. For drivers, the takeaway is equally clear. This is no longer an era where faith alone is enough. Owners are documenting issues, sharing data, organizing communities, and forcing change from the outside in. Power has shifted, and once it shifts, it rarely returns to the way it was. Whether GM can rebuild what's been lost remains uncertain. What is certain is this: the fight isn't over, the scrutiny isn't fading, and the memory of this scandal won't disappear with the next model year. Because once trust breaks at 70 miles per hour, everyone remembers the moment it happened, and they never look at the road the same way again. Once again, thanks for watching this video. If you got something out of this, hit that like button, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next one. And hey, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Agree, disagree, or something in between. I'd love to hear it.